It is a new day. We are working on the rear mount radiator now. We loved all you guys' comments on the last video, and we're gonna show you a little bit of how we're gonna mount this radiator, because we had a lot of people asking they wanna see more of how we do it as opposed to a glance over it and show you the finished product. So right now we're working with the PWR radiator, working with the small fans, and this doesn't have any mounts on it all the way around the whole thing. They leave you to decide where you wanna mount it. So currently, Chris is over there doing some tapping. I got some 13/16 is how thick that one is. And then
solid aluminum.
Solid stock aluminum. This is what it started as. Yeah. Got 8 feet worth of it.
So now we thing, drill a hole in it, pilot hole first, bigger hole now. And now this guy, just getting the old tappy, a little bit at a time.
Which is nice that he decided to use an M10 and not an M8, because it makes the rod thinner the bigger the hole is in the middle, so it'll weld easier without heating up the other part of the radiator and melting through that. The radiator isn't as thick as this, so this is going to take longer to heat up than the side of the radiator. So with us tapping it with a bigger bolt, it's going to work better because it's going to thin out the walls on the tap that he's doing right now. So when we mount the tabs, it'll be easier to melt them both together. And I beveled the edge on here and marked my spots so I can weld these in place here and here. The other side is already done, so we're good there. Just have to finish weld these ones on, and then we can mount this bad boy in here.
And our sweet jig made of 2x4s and wheel spacers.
Yep, that's the perfect height. It's a simple aluminum weld on both sides, nothing special. We were able to keep the Made in America sticker on there without melting it. All right, we have the radiator back in there with our crappy little bracketry down there. Just a little 2x4s and some wheel spacers. And I made this cool little guy right here. It took a couple minutes to figure out where I actually wanted to mount this from, and hence we did these up high and down low. We're actually gonna tie this lower one into this down bar right here from where the fuel cell is. And this is where our old radiator mount used to be. So I'm gonna grind that down, clean it up and nice. And then the new piece, which is this guy right here, is gonna go like this.
Nice and simple. And so, you know what? And when we make our upper mount at the same distance, if we want to make a block off here to keep tire off, boom, we just go from one to the other. It's nice and simple.
Smart. That's a good idea. We have the radiator back in for like the 4th or 5th or 6th or 7th time, something like that.
Whatever. Yeah, it's in there.
So we have both sides done. We're gonna end up tacking this side in, and then we'll measure out, make sure it's perfect on that side. So it's squared off. We are doing it centered to the fans in the middle versus the center of the radiator. Because if you look on this side, there's about an inch overhang after, well, the fan goes right flush up to the edge of the radiator, and then on this side, there's like an inch and a half overhang for the cap. So we're gonna center the fans as opposed to the radiator, just so when you're looking in the back of the car, you see the lines of the fan. It doesn't look like, oh, they hung that crooked, it's off. Well, it actually will be off, but it'll be an inch over this way, just so the fans are symmetrical on there. Because if you look at it, that end cap is really thin, and that one's got about an inch on it. So, you know, radiator, the center part where the bins are, is even perfect down the middle. Got it tacked in. Here we go. Now you can see it.
Oh, it's lit.
It's lit. We have both sides done. Now we got to make tabs for the upper. And as you can see, we got rid of all of our or our 2x4s and shimmies, and it's only one little piece of tape holding the top to where we want it angled. We don't want to angle it down any farther. We put the trunk on there, and notice that over 50% of the fans are showing, which is a nice.
Yeah, I was debating pointing it a little bit straighter like this, but then we're kind of choking out airflow coming in from the front. So I like a little bit of rearward tilt, because given our fuel cell is kind of in the way, but these fans are ridiculous. I mean, they're going to pull air from anywhere they care. Honestly, air out matters so much more than air in with these rear mount setups. Everybody does all the crazy ducting and all that other stuff. We haven't really seen much dramatic changes in temperature with a whole bunch of ducting and everything feeding it, given it works fine when the fans aren't on, but anytime this car is driving, the fans are probably going to be running. So.
Yep. And we're going to have aluminum hard pipes underneath the car, which also will help. You know, the length going from the front of the car all the way back with the aluminum pipes will help dissipate heat. And you know, the longer run, it'll take more time to go through the radiator and go back, so it should be nice and cool. And
yada yada yada.
Yada yada.
Yeah, don't say that.
Looks real good though. I like it. It fits. Could have went even wider if we wanted to.
I mean, we could definitely cut more of this out too if we wanted to.
No, I like how clean it looks. Nice cap. cap. I might cut some of this off to clean up that.
So we mocked up our trunk, and you guys kind of get an idea of where our fan position is in the back, which is really nice. About 50% of our fans, at least, more than 50%.
More than 50.
Showing and pumping the air out of the back of the car. This trunk is pretty sweet. I don't really know who makes it, but we've had it forever.
I
think it's HDK, isn't it?
Yeah, HDK.
Yeah, we've had this thing forever.
Pull that bad Larry off of there. Show the goods.
Show the goods.
So we did our upper mount, welded right to that back bar. We put a bend in it just to give it more structure. We have our lower bar welded in on both sides. We just have to tighten those bolts because they're just hand tight.
Solid. It's not going anywhere.
Alright, so we have moved on to the front of the car, which means we have to build the whole front end again because all the light tabs were broken off or bent and drilled a million different times for this car being hit a million different times.
Mostly vibes.
Mostly vibes?
Vibes absolutely took this whole corner out of the car.
But there was a lot of holes drilled in different spots on that throughout the years.
I zip-tied it all back together at vibes.
Yes. So it was annihilated. So we just cut off all the old tabs. We kept the front upper mount because it was still nice. It wasn't bent or anything. But all the tabs were mangled, so we cut them out. We made new ones. Fit the lights real nice. Like now we're trying to get the fiberglass to just fit proper because they didn't have a way to mount the bumper when they were doing fiberglass work. And we're trying to make as little as work possible for Josh and Ray when they're doing all the rest of the body work on this and getting it ready for paint. So there's a few things we have to do. Like for instance, you see there's a gap right here. And when we put the hood down, you can see it's lifted up right here. See that? So there's a gap underneath here and it's lifted up here, but here it's flush and here it's flush.
And also, I don't understand why this has a downward curve. I don't know if it's supposed to be like that.
I think it is. Because this is flat and then that tips, that pitches. It's to let all the cold rainwater into your car, you know.
That shit thick. Ain't no bend in that back end of place.
And this is all flat, straight across here. Even this line, you know, it's not pitched.
Yeah, no, it's not that this is up high. It's just that this curves down. That's weird.
But it fits the hood really nice. Yeah. So maybe it was meant to do that. Who knows why TTM does the things that they do. But back to what I was saying, there's a gap here, and you can see how the hood goes down lower. So I need to build one more tab on each side that actually will press this down like that. And then it takes away that. And they're gonna have to do a little filler in Manila here because put the pressure on there, it like applies pressure somewhere else, but it fills out everything it's supposed to. So we're almost done with the front end, but yeah, as you see, we have jacks holding up our front bumper, and Joel is about to trip on the bash bar that we took out. So that thing's been hit a bunch of times. It's been towed with, so it bent it up a little bit.
And it might have hit Joel's car too.
I think it hit Joel's car a few times. Hit Joel's car, it hit Savio's car, it hit Andrew Mauer's car.
Well, I mean, when we were at Vibes.
Duarte will tell you that they all hit him though.
Yeah, checks out.
Right? But I think you hit him. He didn't hit you.
No,
he definitely nailed
Joel's
Mauer.
car shut off and then he rear-ended him. That's what happened. Joel didn't check his gas. He was like,
be like that sometimes. He's like, I got a stock tank. I'm good to party all weekend. So we're almost done with the front. I have to build a bash bar, so I'll show you guys how to do that, how I'm gonna take my measurements and whatnot. Basically, I'm just gonna redo this one because he liked that bash bar and it's 7 years old. So it's obviously stood the test of time. So I'm gonna make it nice and simple for him. I'm just gonna make it fit a little nicer so it'll actually hold the bumper up in place. We're gonna add some tabs and nutserts so we can hold the bumper where it needs to on the front of here. Because if you guys know Duarte, he hates when panels come off of cars. So he would rather it be fixed with nuts and bolts everywhere, so there's not a chance. The car will obliterate before the bumper comes off. It'll just come off in chunks, and the bumper will still be sitting there nice and pretty. And it's okay, because then you just, tape it from the backside, put it all together like Chris did with zip ties at Vibes, and it works out really well. So we're gonna.
I was saying that if we welded nuts into our bash bar and we could put the bolts, through our bumper to hold it in there, If we do that while it's off the car, put the bar inside of it and weld the nuts on it, then we can bolt the whole bar inside of here, and then you can just put your little Abraham Lincoln bars, you know, Lincoln logs. Yeah. And then everything will kind of be in place, and then the bar won't move at all.
Right now I'm making my first 2 bars, which don't make any sense to you, but I'm doing those ones right there on the floor that tie into the chassis. Now, the chassis, when it was built, whether it was built square or it's been in a lot of accidents, the bars are pointed down. So if I do straight bars out of it, it's gonna pitch the front bash bar down, and I want it to be up to support the weight of the front bumper itself. So what I'm gonna do to offset the difference is I'm gonna put a little bend in it. So where this one is just straight, I'm gonna put a bend in it so it bends up a little bit, just so it lifts this like that, because it's technically that's how it's supposed to be. So if I can take and recreate this bar and put that much yaw to it, it's gonna be perfect. So first, we're just gonna do 5 degrees. We don't need too much, we just need it to go up about maybe a ½ inch. And also, bar is gonna bounce back. It's not gonna do much for the 5 degrees I'm gonna bend, but I'm gonna bend it to 7. And when I release the pressure, you're gonna watch it bounce back to 5. That's at 5, 6, 7. When I release the pressure, you're gonna watch this bounce back from it. So that just went whoosh. The pressure of the pipe actually has memory to it, so it's gonna bounce back a certain amount of degrees. It's usually a little bit more, the more you bend it, the more bounce back you're gonna get. So like 90 degrees, you're gonna have like 5 degrees worth of bounce back. So with this one, you actually, to get true 90, you have to go all the way up to 90, lock it in place, retract the piston, and then put this back onto this next section up here, and then go 95 degrees, which is only, 5 degrees there, and then you let off and you'll have a true 90. This says it bends all the way up to 90 on its first bend, but it actually doesn't because of the bounce back. So it'll show you that it can get straight up 90 degrees, but then as soon as you let off pressure, it goes 85. So that's how you get rid of your bounce back, so you'll always have the right measurement and the right angle. The other thing with this type of bender, you don't want to let off all the way, because then it'll end up taking your bolt and bending it in that way, and then it's impossible to get off. Anybody that's used one of these Rogue Fabrication benders, they work really good. It's just monotonous, just undoing these bolts every single time you want to bend. Otherwise, it's a really good bender, and they're probably one of the least expensive ones you can do. They are a DIY, so you actually have to, they give it to you all in plates, and you have to weld it all together. They give you all the directions what to do. I didn't put this one together. Our buddy Ray from Fort Myers put this together, and he did a good job welding it, because everything is square on it. And I've built probably 20 cages with this, and I don't even know how many bash bars and whatnot with it. So really good bender. If you guys are in the market for one, check them out, Rogue Fabrication. I use it, and it's really cheap. And you know us, we like inexpensive things to build cool things. Why waste some money on all those expensive fab tools when you can spend it on putting money into your race car? So now that is on, loosen that up. So when you look at this offset right here, it's set in the 4.5 inch. So the offset is 5 3/16. So what that means is from the face of this to the beginning of the bend is going to be 5 3/16 away. So I have this one bend here. Say I wanted to get another bend, which I'll show you on there. It has to be 5 3/16 offset. So where your mark is actually going to be in here. So if you want it to be on that mark that goes in there, you measure 5 3/16 out, put it on there, and then you line it up with this piece right here. And that's why it says offset. So you'll always get the right measurement if you put your line on there where it's supposed to be bent, and then where the offset is. Make notes, Joel.
I have a whole video.
You have a whole video? Okay. Yeah, you have a whole video. He's going to be doing a bash bar in his car. So he's like, Crickett, we need to teach everyone how to use it, aka me mostly. So he's going to learn how to use the Rogue Fabrication thing too. So I have a nice little bend to it, which should be good enough pitch. I needed the whole thing to be 12 inches. So I'm just gonna measure 12 inches and cut it with my bandsaw. This bandsaw by no means cuts straight, but it doesn't really matter because I'm gonna take and notch it. Pitchy long stockings. Yeah, just a little 5 degreer. Just enough. I don't want too much pitch.
You want just a little bit of yaw?
Just a little bit of yaw.
Anything more than 5 degrees?
That's a medical condition. I need a new blade. That's all we need.
That's all you need.
Yeah, just a little bit. Pick it up enough. And before it was hitting here, underneath here, so we couldn't get it up high enough. So with that, it should get it up just that ½ inch higher to where we can put nutserts along the whole thing. All right, so you see there's, I don't know if you can see it with the lighting, but there's 2 wear-in marks right there. That's where the die touched the pipe. Right there is where the die started. All right, and that was even on it, 5 3/16, right on the line. You see that?
That's where you're gonna...
I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna bring this all the way back to where that is, tighten it, and the bend will be at 5 3/16, and then all I do is measure out 12 inches and cut it. So when I put this in here,
Hey, speaking of 3/16, your offset is 5 3/16.
that's what I'm saying.
Oh, because you started from the end of the pipe.
I started from
So
the
it
end of
is
the pipe.
5 3/16.
It's 5 3/16
Whoa.
offset. So if you push this all the way back in here, like I was saying,
It's gonna be exactly 5 3/16.
5 3/16 to where, if you look inside here, where the pipe actually touches the die. So where it starts. If you look at 4 3/16 worth of pipe it takes up, I had to measure that one. For the die, if you go all the way around 90, it'll take up, the inside bend will be 4 3/16 worth. So where it starts to where the 90 actually ends on it will be 4 3/16 away from it. So that gives you an idea, because you were asking if the metal shrinks when you bend it. It doesn't technically shrink, it just changes direction. But it will suck up the metal and pull more, because from here to here, you're losing 4 3/16 worth from that 90 to 90. So you have to figure, you have to account in for that as well. So every time you do something, you're gonna lose that radius. It's gonna be 4 3/16 that you lost off of it. So from there to there, 4 3/16. From there to there is 4 3/16. You'll learn a little bit more here. We need to tighten this up. Get it to where it cinches right on the edge, because then you get your, I want it to match the other one. Oh, this one's pretty tight, but it could obviously be tighter. You just need to extend the bends from here out to here, and then it would fill in this space between here. Or you could do less of a bend and then do another bend and then another one. So might do quite a few bends on this next one, not just 4 bends, so it molds the bumper better. Because I'd like to be able to put bolts along it, along this top section, you know, do little tabs off of it to be able to hold the bumper in place. So I'm gonna try and bend a new one. I'm not gonna try, I am gonna bend a new one. And hopefully it's tighter than this one. I mean, it's pretty good all in all. I could really technically just, if I wanted to, cut these things off and add the new ones in that I got, because it fits pretty damn well. Especially between here and here on the sides. And then we have 2 points right here of really good contact. So, I don't know. Wait till Chris gets off the pooper and then we'll decide. He's throwing his business out there, he's dropping heat. But the other thing is, if you look at these, this is even, now we're even there. But you see how close this bar is to this section versus this bar to this section? It's like a whole inch off. And I don't know if that's from, it can't be anything from being bent. So yeah, we're gonna make a new one. Start from scratch, work our way out.
So what did you determine to be your first bend?
26 degrees. That was based off of that last measurement on that one. So I have an angle finder. You can get it at any Harbor Freight for like $1.99, maybe $5.99, and it's got a magnetic base to it. So your first bend, I'm gonna start with this one. So I put this flat on the ground like this, and then I put this on here like that, and it'll show you 26 degrees.
And that's the side that wasn't crashed, so.
Yep.
That's our safer bet.
Yeah.
You had a nice poop?
Great poop.
26. And then on this one, since it's already flat, we can just go based off of that one, and that one is. So I have the first one done. So after I pull that out, you see where the bends stop. You can actually see there's like a little hump down right here. So that's right there is where the bend ends. So I'm gonna measure there to the start of the next bend, which is 18.5. So I always have my Crickett math on here. So this has everything I need, 18.5 between bends on this. So if I measure out 18.5, go to here, mark it, then remember we have that 5 3/16. This is where we use that for our bends. So we go from this, we measure backwards 5 3/16, mark it there and lock it in on the bender at that mark, not the actual spot where the bend is. So we have both those measurements, so now we can come over here and I'll show you. Usually this gets caught in here, so a good rule of thumb is to take something hard and heavy and give it a little smack, just to set it free from the die. All right, so like I said, I have 18.5 inches between here, where the bend ends, look at that, right there, and then I go 18.5 inches forward. Mark it real quick so I don't have to look at it as much. 18.5, mark it, and then you have your offset, which is the 5 3/16. You come backwards, 5 3/16. And that's actually where you want to do your bend. So to go from there to where the start of the bend is, and that's at 18.5.
So what you're saying is this is where this goes right at the end of that.
Yep. And then this mark will actually be perfectly started on where the die is to start the bend. So when you're doing it, you always want to make sure that you account for that offset. Wherever you mark, you want to go back 5 3/16.
Question.
Sure.
This. And you make sure that's perfect every time.
How it's perfect every time would be with a really nice level and something that is level and a level floor. So what I do is I'll get it marked to where I want. I'll get it in the spot, I'll get it tight, and then I will eyeball from this, and I'll make sure this whole line right here lines up with the inside line right here. See that? This is really tall, so you can use this line as a guide on this side. So I look on that side, and then I'll go on the other side and line this line up with the edge of the die going all the way up that.
So right now it's Crickett.
Yep, I'm sure it is. I haven't even looked. But you also want to get this tight to where it doesn't fumble around on you. So when you do get it set into place, get your depth done first, get it a little tight, put this on here. This is the monotonous part of the road fabrication setup. My other one, I had a JD squared back in the day, and that one worked really good too, but it was done with clamps and buckles. So you'd have a buckle that went over the pipe, and then there was a pin that went through it. So it only held it together by cinching it, and there was pressure that was holding it on there. This one actually is tight to it. So I feel like this one, all in all, has a better precision to it than the JD squared, because it actually holds it in place and there's no chance for it to slip inside of that buckle. So I actually like this better. It's just not as fast. Let's do the measure.
What was the second measurement now?
It needs to be 18.5 inches in between bends.
Did it work? Did it work?
Boy howdy, look at this. Here's my mark right there.
All right, focus,
See the line?
Uh-huh.
I go down to where the end of the bend is.
And how long?
See how it's shiny? It's
Uh-huh.
18.5 on the dot.
On the dot. Wow.
Don't get more accurate than that, huh? Measure your offsets. All right, so the next one, bend to bend, is 17. So I start from the end of the bend, which you can see where the little rust mark is on that. So,
Now that's cleaned up
yeah,
on the bend.
a little bit of rust doesn't never hurt anybody, especially when you're using it for measurements, because it really takes off and you can see where the die actually stops, so it makes it convenient. So a little bit of surface rust isn't bad, you know, it just wipes away, but it really helps when you're trying to measure stuff. Where is my pen? I always use my pen. I need like one of them little, there it is. It's hiding. Gray pen in a gray box, yeah. One is 17, which is the middle part in between bends. You can take 17, and remember, don't forget your offsets. Spin the tape around the opposite way, and then just measure out 5 3/16. On the line. There we go, and that's our next bend.
The line after 1/8.
So, yeah, the little line after 1/8. Teaching Joel how to use a tape measure. So there's 16 lines on a tape measure, and they're fractions. So I've been telling my nephew, who wants to get into this, oh, Crickett, I want to do fabrication and blah, blah, blah. Pay attention to math, kids. It actually works. Granted, I wasn't the best at math in school because there was no practical application to it. Like I was showing Joel, you know, with a tape measure, it's really easy to figure out fractions. When you're looking at it on paper, not so easy. But when you can have a practical application for it, it helps a lot. So we have our mark, slide that bad boy back into there. And we're gonna cinch it up and then we'll get it where it needs to be.
Wait,
Because if you watch,
how do you know when this is straight?
because it won't be able to do that. So when I
you
tighten
cinch
this
it?
up all
Oh,
the
you
way,
cinch it to
I just
zero.
cinch it by hand.
But you cinch it to 0.
No, I do it until the pipe gets snug.
Oh, so not 0.
And then you make sure your zero's set. Because this could change. If someone bumps it, oh no, what am I gonna do?
What
Oh
do you
God.
do now?
So you make sure it's loose. You tighten this part up, you cinch it up to where it's supposed to be. Right before it starts to move the metal, see how it moved it a little bit? Cinch it down.
And that's your 0.
Just to where it's just snug, right there. That's 0. I'm gonna put this 0. So you can move
Wherever you look at it, 0.
Yeah.
Right now it's like 1 degree from where I'm at.
Well, you stand where it's at 0 and you don't move. You know, so you get down, all right, that's at 0. Let's get a little better.
Cricket
You're
out
right.
here with
You're
common
right.
sense.
You're right, Joel. It's all about perspective. That's the right perspective. All right, so whatever we did on this side, we want to mirror it to the other side. So this one's going to be 22 degrees, and then the next bend after that's going to be 28 degrees, and then we just cut off 6 3/16 from the last bend, and we have the whole bash bar. Got to get that 2 degrees of bounce back, you know?
And you loosen as it's tight. You loosen
Yeah,
it.
loosen it as it's tight because, well, I mean, you can go all the way down with it if you want to, but when you do, see how it tweaks in? How the head of the bolt is closer to the die than the bottom, so it's actually tilted in. So if you loosen it up more, this will tilt in farther, and then you won't actually be able to release the bolts. So I always do it while it's tight or after the bounce back, but don't loosen it all the way, otherwise this will dive into the die and you won't be able to get them out. You'll have to re-tighten it up and remove the bolts that way. This was all OJT, or I guess trial and error for me, because I got this bender and didn't know anything about it. So I had to learn all of the little cheat codes without anybody telling me. So you guys get to learn firsthand without having to learn all the cuss words and say them all yourself and hate yourself and waste a bunch of metal. I did it for you. Crickett, for the people.
For the people. Cricket 2024.
All right,
So
Cricket.
another way to do it, if you don't want to use your little tabby here, you get your little magnetic guy and you can sit it on there.
And then you figured out your actual.
You got an idea? Why don't you sit on it?
I'll never sit on it. So if you look, this one says it's at 13 degrees. This one says it's at 13 degrees. So it's spot on.
Wait, 13? Sorry.
14,
Yep.
14. This one's at 13 and a half, between 13 and 14. And what's that mark on?
I don't know.
Read it.
28?
No, it's like 26.
Hold on. Yeah, you're yeah. Depends where I'm at, but yeah. 26.
26. We have a whole bash bar. Measure this side to the bend. 5 3/4.
Yeah, 5 3/4.
5 3/4.
And you got a bash bar.
We got most of a bash bar. You still have to put the ends on it and notch them, which I'm going to show you how to notch too. In case you guys don't have a notcher, I'm going to show you how to do it without a notcher.
I take it the notcher doesn't work.
The notcher does work. I just have a really dull hole saw bit, and we don't have any, and since we're so far out in the swamp, I don't feel like driving all the way into town to get one unless it's around lunchtime. But if I do it at lunch, what I'll end up doing is show you how to do it with a notcher, and then I'll also show you how to do it with a chop saw, because not everyone has a notcher, and they're kind of expensive. At least the one that I have is. It's like 500 bucks, 600 bucks. All right, so the eyeball level exam, the best way to check is to just put it on something flat. And if all of it sits flat, then you got all of it level. And all of it sits flat. This one, on the other hand,
I mean, it probably did sit flat.
See, a little poked up. Mine, not so much. I'll take it, dude.
Quit teasing, put it in the bumper.
All right, so I need a little bit more on these ones. I have about a 1/2 inch gap. So these were at 22, I'm gonna go up to 26.
So wait, you can rebend something out there that's already been bent?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can add more bends?
You can add, certain points. So like these ones, for instance, you cannot rebend because the distance between where the die is, or where the pickup point is on the front of the die, and the pickup point on the back of the die to hold it to where it can pinch itself into it, it won't fit.
Ah, so it needs to be long enough.
Shit, it actually might.
So
that would be pushing, that would be as a 1 foot section is as far as you could go, and you could only do it up to maybe 20-degree bend. That's good though, so if we need to bend these anymore, I didn't just waste metal. So thanks for asking that, Joel. I've never bent something this small. And it's dangerous too, for one, because if it goes past the point of where the bracket is, it can flip out, and don't be standing in front of it. I'll let you do the math. You don't want to do it. Not ever. So if you look here, I have a gap. I can put my fingers in between here, and I want this to be tight. And up here, it's still not hitting. I got about a 1/2 finger length, but right here on the corners, it's touching. So I can take and actually bend these 22-degree bends farther in, and what that'll do is this will drop this down, and it'll pick this up, and as it does that, this will hit the edge, and so will this. So we're gonna go, this was 22 degrees, we're gonna go up to 26 degrees, got to add 4 more degrees on each side, which should tighten that up and get us to drop down a lot closer to be able to put a nut suit in. Yeah, so starting at a bend, if you need to add more to it, if you don't get it in the exact right spot, it's gonna stretch your bend out. So it could actually do 2 bends in a tight radius that you don't want. So the easiest way to do it is find your mark, which is still right there. Go back 5 3/16. And now that I put the mark there, I can actually see where the line used to be, which is nice. But always remeasure just in case it smudges or something, you know, because look, I know it's gone again. So it's very easy to wear out the Sharpie on mild steel because they put an oil coat on it to keep it from rusting. I should say to help prevent it from rusting. So I want to get this all the way into there, so I make sure this die is set up right, which it's not currently. There we go. And I'm going to put this in here to where it like almost locks into place. Right there. And then I'm going to take and cinch this up. So if it's not, see how it's too far? It actually needs to go farther back. There we go. That's why you always remeasure, because it can cinch up and you'll think it's in the right spot.
No, it's a little too in.
Now it's a little too much. That's what that little cinch mark is for, so you can make sure that your measurement is spot on every time. And the nice thing is, if it's in there tight, you know that it's already square as well. So you just want to get your piece on there, make sure the line is on the line, which it is. And then we're gonna wiggle it around, make sure it's in its, where it'll get loose once it gets more level, if it's not all the way tight. And and it'll have a little bit of play. So then you cinch it up a little bit more, give it a little bit, and it'll get less and less play, and it'll get exactly even where it was before. So I went about 3 degrees too far, 2 degrees too far, and I need to unbend. So I'm going to show you a cheat code on you. Unbend something as well.
Unbend.
Unshun, reshun.
That hole doesn't look square.
It doesn't look square, does it?
No, it doesn't. What the hell's going on with that?
I don't know.
Alright, Crickett made an adapter. He's about to hurt the car.
Yep, about to hurt the car. That's really good with my fucking tennis. This is why I don't go to the doctor, because the doctor said, don't do any heavy lifting. I was like, oh, okay. That will work for me. A little bit of prying, you know, if you overcook it, you can always bend back maybe 2-3 degrees. You can't get more than that though. We've tried. You can also do it in a reese hitch in the back of a pickup truck. I like that's just enough you can slide it in there, and then you can bend it depending on how long the bend is. But yeah, if you mess up, there is a little bit of forgiveness with bending metal, but not much. Otherwise, I gotta bring the metal stretcher. And we're not gonna get into that one this episode. Maybe next time. If someone asks me what a metal stretcher is, maybe I'll tell them. Otherwise, it's gonna remain our secret, Joel. Now that I have it mocked up, I put these little magnets on here to hold it, space it apart. So they're exactly the same, and it holds it in place. I cleaned out the black paint, whatever they had on the back of this, with some brake cleaner and wiped it down so I can actually mark where my bar hits all the way across it. And then I'm gonna end up doing 4 bolts. So I'll do one there, one here, here, and there to hold the bumper in place. And with drilling that, I know that I'll mark it right on each side of it, and then I'll measure in, drill the middle of it, and I can drill the middle of the bar itself, and we can put a nutsert through it, or weld a nut on it. I'm thinking nutsert because it's easy. If it gets stripped or messed up, we just drill it out and pop a new nutsert in. That's the great thing about nutserts. If they get ruined or cross-threaded, whatever, you can just drill them bad boys out and pop a new one in, and not have to worry about like your hole getting messed up. Like if you weld a nut on the back side of it and the nut strips out, well, you have to drill that out, tap it bigger, or you have to cut it off, grind it, and do another one again. This way it's just quick, and you just use a quick little nutsert gun. So I'm just gonna mark this.
And we're back.
We're back. So I got everything mocked up, and I just wanted to show Joel. Nice and level all the way across the board. Yeah. So now I have it marked. I'm going to take and go down 3/4 of an inch because it is 1.5 inch DOM. So just split the difference between it. I'll drill my holes. I'll do 1 on each corner, and then 2 as far away as I can before it separates too far, and I'll do nutserts on those. I was thinking about maybe doing brackets instead, but I'm not sure. I want to ask Chris real quick before I decide. What do you think, Chris? Brackets or just straight to the bash bar? Yeah. I mean, it touches enough places to where we can...
If we have 4 points of contact, then we can just do it at the 4 points of contact.
You can nutsert a bar?
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt, but you can do it.
I mean, we could just also drill a hole big enough to where the flange of an M6 nut will sit in there, and you can just weld the M6 nut into it.
He didn't want to do
Yeah,
it.
we just talked about that. In case it strips out, then you're stuck with that M6. You got to do a lot of repair work.
We go up to quarter 20, and then if quarter 20 strips out, then we go up to an M7. If M7 strips out, we go back up to, we work our way up.
Yeah, or you can do what I talked about, and you just drill out the messed up nutsert, and then you reinsert a new nutsert, and it's a lot less work. But I went over that option as well. But it's funny that you're like, oh no.
Is it 120 wall? Is it gonna have enough grab on the back to do it?
It's 120 wall, yeah.
Where are our rivets?
I don't know. We ordered them like an hour ago at least.
Time for all that.
Yeah, I mean you do.
Well, I'm not leaving today now. I'm gonna do.
I was in there spending money at Snap-on, getting some new tools and stuff. I inserted my nutserts and used the hardware that Joel gave me because it's a little flat. heads on there.
Wait, that's
Allen.
it?
So it's M6 nut certed in.
Oh. So it wasn't really on there. Okay, cool.
Well, no, I didn't want to weld it in.
Oh, wow. So the bar is in there.
The bar is in there. It's in. It's nice and tight. Sits flat everywhere, and your bolts were the perfect size. So it worked out just right. So I have to hone the inside of that driver's side post because it is dented. So I got to get it to be circular enough or cylindrical enough to slide the other bar into it and not have to hammer it. Because I'd like to be able to go in and out with it with ease and not have to sit there and bang on it with a hammer, because nobody ever likes that. It's not a good time. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll end up putting in the bars, and we'll set this up into place, and we'll slide it up to where it needs to be notched to make sure it's in the right spot. And if it needs a little bit more bendy, we can do that. We already measured it. It'll do up to a foot, and we have a foot of room to bend. So we'll keep that length in there. We'll slide it into the pocket and then bring it out to where it actually hits on the bar, and then figure out where we need to notch it and the angle, and I'll show you how to do that once we get to it. But I need to make that hole a little bit more open. So I'm gonna steal his honer. Can I steal your honer?
You can.
It's a fix.
That
hole.
Dent.
That
Got Dale Denton right here. So I just need to hone it out a little bit more, just so it slides in a little easier. And then we can put our posts in there.
That's all we can ever hope for.
Yep. Alright, so right now I have the bash bar mounted, I have the bumper where I want it to, so now we're just filling in the blank from A to B. And that is our bent 5-degree tube that slides in here. So right now I just have a nice little angle finder, and I'm basically just making sure that this whole line right here touches the whole bar, and then the red piece right here touches against this, and that will help me find my angle. As long as I don't tap it on anything and ruin it. That's the hardest part, is getting it out of tight places and then tighten it down. So I have my angle now, so I can put it on the bar, hang this red piece over it, draw a line, and then I know what I need to actually notch out of it. And I have this slid in here about to here. So I have plenty, I have like 3.5 inches to play with before it gets to where it actually bolts in. Can't bring him anywhere, I swear. Happy Friday, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow on this video. Thanks for all your comments, by the way, on what we should build. Me and Chris went and had lunch today and talked about it, and we really liked the Volvo idea. It's probably the cheapest scenario. And then also, we really want to put that case swap into Wendy. And everyone's doing safari builds, and when we were talking about it at lunch, we already have 2 safari buggies. We have Wendy, who is a real classy broad, and then we also have the Pajero. So we don't actually need to build anything to go do shenanigans with Adam and Colette and go mudding and all that stuff. We actually have 2 trucks that are available for it. Just, we really want to case swap one of them. So what do you guys think? Case swap the B2200, aka the Ranger, Wendy, or should we do it to Duarte's Pajero that no one ever drives? At least with Wendy, we take the garbage out with it at least once a day. So it's gonna get ridden. So let us know in the comments. We want to know. We should just case swap that. Keep it NA, you know, real classy, but we'll put like a snorkel kit on it, a better lift kit, extended control arms in the front, you know, really sauce it up. But in the meantime, I'm gonna finish this bash bar, and I have to remove this whole bumper now because I have to pull this bar out, and I need to be able to notch that. So another thing I need to do. I got that mark sideways, that mark sideways. I need one more mark just to show top. All right, so now that we have our angle set, this is my top mark. So I needed to put this across here to be able to notch it. So with a notch, it has to circle around on one side and then also do it on the other side. So if you have a straight line, it's just gonna fit up to it flush, and it's not actually gonna meet. It's gonna be gapped on the top and on the bottom. So you actually have to swoop around it and go back, and then do the same thing on this side, like that. So the easiest way to do that is just put it sideways in a chop saw, right? And match that angle, chop that, and then put it in the chop saw the other way and chop it the other way. And you just cut out the angle for it to fit. Well, you can't see it on that, but we'll do it like that. So you have to pretend like there's a bar going through it. So if you cut it straight this way, it's actually gonna round out the circumference of the pipe. So you don't need a fancy notch or anything. You just need one of those abrasive cutting discs. You can do it with a little tiny DeWalt grinder. I wouldn't suggest it because, you know, those things are dangerous. Can confirm I have battle scars for those. Or if you have a normal bandsaw, you can do it. I'm just gonna use my little portable bandsaw and leave myself enough room to be able to grind it and make it nice and clean, and we'll show you how to do that. So it's the easiest way. Most of the time, if you're doing any type of light fabrication in your shop, you're gonna have a portable bandsaw anyways, and you're definitely gonna have a grinder. So you just cut it on the outside of the line, and then use your flapper disc and just round it out so it fits in there nice and tight. And then we'll do the same thing for the other side. We want it to match. So if you cut them exactly the same, they should fit in there exactly the same if you have it squared off right. If it's not squared off right, one will be tight, the other one will be loose, so you have to fit the bumper right. So we're gonna cut them exactly the same and hope that it works out. All right, Joel's all mad because I'm cutting a notch with this tool that I always tell him, don't ever use this tool, it never cuts exactly straight. Well, it doesn't need to be. If you cut on the outside of the line and then grind it to where the line is, you don't need this thing to cut straight. So we're gonna do two cuts. We're gonna do one straight across this way to get the actual angle of what it's supposed to be, and then we're gonna do another cut that's straight this way because we want it to hit straight on the thing. And then we will round out the inside of the cut, which I'll show you in a minute, and that's just so it fits tight. And luckily, I have another one right here that after I notch it, I can show you what I'm talking about. Speed roll this. Alright, so we got it grinded.
No way.
Boom.
Almost there.
Almost
I think
there.
a little bit more. I want to see full notchy.
Well, you know, come over here and grind. Here, leave that right here.
Now that's a notch.
Yeah, that's tight work.
Ah, yeah. Holy
Hey,
crap. So that's
you
how
know-
you can do a notch without a notcher?
Yeah, you just cut one side and then cut the other. You always want to mark your top center on it so you know where to stick the blade, you know, to start cutting. Because you can have the side where you want to cut to on both sides, and you could be off just a little bit. And if you're off 1 degree here, it could be off, you know, more over on this side. So you want to make sure you mark your top center on the pipe before you cut it.
Did you get plates for your actual notcher or no?
Like, no. Well, everybody knows how to do that one. You just take and you line it up with the notcher. It has like a certain degree on it. So you could take and literally put this straight, you know, find where to put if you wanted to do it on a regular bend, you just take and put this right here, put your angle finder on it, and it'll tell you how many degrees it's pitched, and then you match that on the actual notcher, and it has numbers on it. So say it's like a 6 degree pitch to it, you mark this at 6 degrees. Make sure you also mark your top center because that matters even with a notcher. Because if you have it twisted, because the notcher is going to go straight through like this on there. So if you don't have it squared off right, it's either going to notch the wrong direction and you're going to have a big gap on one side and it's going to be too tight on the other side. So make sure you always mark top center. All right, so we have this other one in place. It's notched. As you can see, it's still loose. I can still twist it around. So we're gonna get it to where I marked the notch and get it nice and tight. It is the same reveal. If you look on both sides, we have the same reveal on these. They're good there. Those are good. So I can tack her into place, and when I tack it, I should be able to lower this and it not move. In a perfect All right, right, so we have the bash bar done. The only thing left we have on the bash bar is to drill the little holes for the cotter pins to go through to hold it in place in case he does smash into someone, it can't get ripped off. So there's 2 holes on each side, one here and then one on that side, that you can put a cotter pin or a shear pin in there to hold it in place. And otherwise, the next thing we got to do is fit that dashboard.
Yeah.
But that'll be for another episode. I think you successfully.
I like the sound of that, Joel.
You successfully have taught myself and the viewers how to make a bash bar and anything else that requires bend.
Yeah.
The good thing is that I don't have to remember. I could just watch this video.
Very true. You can always go back to it.
It.
Yeah. You can keep learning. Yeah. Turned out good. It's hot in here. I need to turn the AC back down. So let us know how you like this video. All of the tutorial on how to use a bender, find your angles and whatnot. Tried to follow what you guys asked us in the comments last video. So if you want to see anything else like Chris wiring, he'll be doing that shortly soon too. Let us know in the comments. We'd like to you know, teach you guys what you want to learn while you're here watching the videos. So stay tuned, like, subscribe, comment.
That was very close.
That was really close. I'm a finely tuned machine.